break from that and manufacturing type businesses, which are great. But I also have a strong background in just professional services, which are great from that and manufacturing type businesses. Sorry, I had a little echo there.
Sorry, it's because of me. What I'm trying to do is I'm putting this link on Search Funder so that it becomes a live stream on there.
Yeah, it does. All right, right on. And yeah, so that's when I shifted over. And plus, the margins are so much better. I don't know if you guys know this about like CPA firms and a fraction like consulting firms. Like the margins are ridiculous. So I was like, all right, if I have to, and that's kind of where I've been looking more so recently.
Nayab.
Hi. So hello everybody. Yeah, Nayab Siddiqui. I'm also from the finance side of the world. I've been in this field for the last more than 25 years. I happen to work with quite a few large corporates such as Visa, Meta. Had been in investment banking for quite some time as well. And now I'm basically working as an acquirer. So I'm also working to help out acquirers with their merger and acquisition transactions, and doing due diligence for them, helping them with their acquisitions, strategizing the business growth. So that's what I'm doing right now.
Mark.
Yeah, similar to Sandeep, 25 years of corporate experience, and just have kind of been through big companies, small companies, just looking to, I like small company experience and just tired of the big company BS and want to have more control over my destiny.
Awesome. Very nice. Alec?
Well, similar, like you guys, 19 years corporate experience. I'm more specialized in electronics semiconductor industry. Like Mark's side is a little bit tired with a big organization, want to hold a little bit more close for their own destiny. So I'm really in a very early stage of the search. I just finished my MBA degree, and then I kind of start to learn these concepts and start trying to build up the area. I'm looking for something maybe like light manufacturing, more close to my background, and really glad to come here, trying to learn more and more to see how you guys go through the journey.
Awesome, welcome. And John?
That's great. Yeah, I'm a self-funded searcher. I actually live in Minnesota and am planning on acquiring a company in the Bay Area where I used to live for about 2.5 years. My background is kind of a mix of things. I worked at Amazon and then Target as an analyst, so I have a little bit of the analytical side of things. And then when I was in the Bay Area, I worked at a company called Blue Vine Capital on the fintech side of things, more on the sales side. So I'm planning on planning on launching my search in the next probably 2 months or so, because I plan to go full time. Just trying to make sure the capital's lined up so that I don't end up in a pinch after, if it takes me 1.5, 2 years. I want to make sure I have the capital to sort of have a decent runway, so I'm not making any sort of rash decisions. But my industry thesis is in water management services. So looking at sort of construction-like businesses that sell into water treatment plants or that help with groundwater management, really anything water related. I'm planning on taking a look at.
Yeah, awesome. And Tad?
Hey everyone, similar stories. Based in Oakland, California, self-funded searcher, doing it part-time right now, working in corporate America still. Just finished the MBA program, part-time program at Berkeley. So I've a couple weeks ago, so going full bore, trying to get a system set up for finding proprietary deals or getting to know more brokers in the area to get some deal flow. So yeah, nice to meet you all.
So let's start our conversation on my one question I have for all of you is how what is the biggest challenge for independent searcher like us? Is it finding a deal or finances? Anybody can jump
Finding a
in.
deal. I think there's so much capital available. Like, as soon as you get under LOI, you post on like Search Funder or someplace, or there's plenty of lists out there of investors. There's money to be raised. I don't think that's an issue, because I think especially for specific, we're not startups, right? We're we're in Search Fund. The whole thing is like, these are cash flowing businesses. These aren't turnarounds. It's so easy to get funding for those, in my opinion. So I don't know if has that been an experience for you guys?
Yeah. Anybody? Mark, John.
Yeah, I mean, if you get a good deal, there seems to be lots of people interested in looking at it.
I see from my perspective, I see whenever you lock in a deal, the LOI, or when I look into various deals, which is based on the search funder, if it is under 1 million, it's extremely hard for somebody to raise or take help if you are not an SBA approved. Like, I'm not SBA approved. So it's always, because I'm a Canadian. So it is very difficult for me to raise anything below. But if the moment I go beyond 1 million or 2 million, as you go up, it is said that it becomes easier to raise. And I may be wrong, so please correct me. Anybody, Tad, Mark?
Are you talking EBITDA or enterprise value?
Enterprise value.
Oh, okay. Oh yeah, definitely. I
Right.
think
So I spoke to some people and they said, oh, if you have 3 million, 5 million plus EV, then we'll be interested, or 5 million plus we'll be interested. Is my understanding the same as yours?
that's what I've noticed too.
I could see that.
Yeah, I would agree.
When it's small too, like, there's not enough meat for everyone, so to speak, right? Like, the bigger funds, the ones with enough money to be able to, here's $500,000, here's $1 million, here's a couple $100,000. They have to do so many of those. But if that's 50% of the deal, I think that's super risky for them. But if it's like a small percentage, it makes it a little easier. I mean, I would think the same way, right? If I was investing, if I was running a fund, I'd be like, well, like, I'm putting a lot of faith in this one person.
So
I definitely find it definitely term dependent. So what kind of terms you're putting out there? So, I mean, in terms of, how much, how you want to split it up. Self-funded, if you're trying to take down most of the equity or giving away most of the equity, if you're doing like a traditional search kind of terms, you're taking 20%, giving away 80%. It's super easy to find investors. There's lots of those out there. If you're just doing the opposite, it becomes a lot more challenging.
So Mark, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to ask, have you guys, do you have a particular opinion on trying to build relationships with investors pre-LOI? Because I've heard many different things. I've heard, build the relationship post LOI, but at the same time, I kind of want to understand who I'm, getting into bed with. So I feel like, I don't know, I want to get to know some people, but these investors don't have a lot of time. And I'm kind of on the smaller end of EBITDA ranges, and probably enterprise value of maybe 1.5 to 2 million. So any opinion?
My experience was they all wanted a deal to look at. That's kind of what they were willing to spend their time, and had to be under LOI.
I'm trying to just be annoying enough that they would maybe recognize my name, but not waste time like getting to know them, because they're not going to care until you bring a deal. So that's what it's like a 10% on investors, 90% on finding the deal is the hardest part, in my opinion. Yeah, if you have a great deal, I don't think you'll have a problem.
Yeah.
You'll be able to pick and choose. It is hard to know though, because it's kind of like, oh, I guess I'll find a deal, and then hopefully these are the right investors that I'm then going to start talking to, and the timeline will be so compressed that you kind of know it's going to be crazy, or at least that's my thinking.
I think
One of my question I have here is, once you get the LOI, how much time you have to kind of secure a fund or get investor?
Very
Probably
little.
terms, yeah.
Depends on what you put in the LOI, right?
Yeah, 60 to 90 days, but things always get dragged along. I mean, most likely you're like, hey, can we give an extra 30 days for due diligence? But it depends on the seller, how quickly they're trying to get rid of the deal. Or if there's a broker, that's kind of like, we got 90 days, yeah.
Yeah, well, one question on like what we were all discussing about earlier, finding the investors. So out of your experience, I mean, what is the appetite for investors in terms of like different industries? Are you seeing investors being attracted to any kind of deals, or they are very specific to specific industries that they only want to invest in certain businesses and not in others? So what is the experience like so far?
Each of them has their own appetite for certain business models and region and industries.
Yeah, there's a
Yes.
big mix. Some are
Yeah.
very particular. They want to invest in industries they know. Others are pretty open.
Yeah.
But I haven't. Have you found any industries people or investors are avoiding?
Mhm.
Really? Oh, I haven't. I mean, not specific investors, but most investors, let's say.
Like restaurants and retail and.
I don't know. Not really sure. Some people some people just avoid tech altogether. I definitely know that. Some people, I mean, I've seen some people avoid construction for a lot of reasons. They just don't want the exposure, or project-based businesses.
Project based. That's one thing I
Yeah.
have noticed. They like the maintenance businesses, the recurring side, right? Anything with recurring revenue, they love.
Yeah, they definitely like that.
Okay, I have another question for you guys. Since everybody's saying that deal is more important, then what is your experience? How are we searching for deals? So would you like to share? I will share mine first. I tried for a year and a half for a proprietary deal, and I think I failed in that effort. And most of my wasted time is because of that. And ultimately, I went out for BizBuySell and portals and platforms and brokers. And what is your experience? Just jump.
I think there was a lot of push when I first started doing all my research. Everyone was proprietary. Now that again on and off, but when for a couple of months I was full time, and I feel like I wasted my time on the proprietary stuff. I really should have concentrated way more on brokers, getting those deals that are ready to sell. Right, the owner's ready, he's there with a purpose. The broker's trying to make the deal happen. Of course, there's good and bad brokers out there. But yeah, my new strategy, as I'm kind of slowly putting it back together, is focus on brokers. It may be a little proprietary, but not the same level as before.
I think that makes sense as well, because there is an ideal situation versus there is a practical situation. The ideal situation is, of course, go for proprietary, but how often can you get a deal, the right kind of deal, by just like reaching out to proprietors? But if you're reaching out to brokers, they've got hundreds of deals available in a certain sector, and then you can pinpoint which is the right one. And sometimes, I mean, if you go for proprietary options, people don't really open up. Somebody who's already there with a broker, he or she is a serious seller. But if you are reaching out to proprietors directly, it becomes a bit challenging to find the right kind of deal, the right kind of person, the right kind of business that you're trying to tap into. And then there are fewer as compared to what is available with the brokers.
The thing that I wanted to bring up too was, it depends on your funding source, right? If I'm a traditional searcher and I have some level of guaranteed income, then I can concentrate on this. If I got a mortgage and a family to support and I'm self-funded, I'm like, oh my God, I can't believe I wasted this much time. I should have just gone this route. So it depends how much risk you can take, is a big part of it, I think. Or if you're self-funded or have backing.
Go ahead. I think both have its place, but going my major mistake, like I spent way too much time on just proprietary research, because when I went through these programs which teach ETA, and they were all saying, oh, the best deals are in this, and the best deal, you'll see success stories. Oh, I went and I sent an email and I got this response, and that deal was so good. It looked like people are just waiting for your email and your phone call to respond, and then it's just a matter of one click, and then you have a business for yourself. Then you later realize that that's wrong. Like, I'll give you an example. Few days back, I saw a tweet from somebody, and it just opened I'll tell you two things. One, that the tweet later on, but somebody told me, and it opened my eyes, that somebody told me on Search Funder, I was networking, and he said, I want to reach out to only those people who have already made up their mind, and because I don't want to waste. And I was blindsided because of my own circle at that before that. So I opened my eyes and started looking into it. The second thing is, when it comes to 80% seller finance, or 90% seller finance, or 70% seller finance, it usually never doesn't happen, but it still happens. I saw one deal, somebody was saying on Twitter that a seller was saying, I have sold my company to my manager who was with me for last 20 years, and at 98% seller finance. So, you have to be with that person for 28 years or so, 20 years, right? So, but those things are missed in your exuberance, or in your fascination to go behind these things. So what is your experience on that?
I think a big piece of it is it being kind of a numbers game. I think you want to try to funnel quality into the funnel. And my experience, even though I haven't launched my search, my experience now is I run business development and strategy for a healthcare real estate company. So I do a ton of cold outreach to physicians. And at the end of the day, we get a lot of different interests. We send out a lot of proposals, but things fall apart. But if you increase that funnel, the likelihood of success goes up so much more. So you almost can't get too excited about any deal. You just have to make sure your messaging is clear, and then make sure you have the proper systems in place. And then once you have the proper systems in place, you can then crank up the funnel, because if you don't have the proper systems, it becomes much more manual. And I think it's tougher to do that. So I would personally suggest just making sure your messaging is clear and you're getting the message you want to get across to sellers. And then one thing I wanted to mention on this call was, I was on a call. Have you guys heard of this new software I think it's called Invin.ai? It kind of leverages AI for search.
I have not. I don't know. What is it called? Invin.ai?
Yeah,
I have access to it.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I don't know how useful it was. It was interesting on at least the call, and the example that he showed, the capabilities of it seems pretty powerful. So
who has that access, Mark?
I do have access to it. Yeah, I had a call with the guy who built the company. Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, you give it a company name, and it goes out and find companies that are similar to it based on, it scrapes the website, and then it's done a bunch of website scraping, and it pulls out kind of bits and pieces from the website, some messaging and stuff, and then it just goes find other companies out there with similar messaging. It has some interesting to it. So I mean, if you find business you kind of like and you want to find something similar to that, you can, or you're looking for something in a particular industry or something like that, you can go find things that are like that.
Okay, that's interesting. So suppose I want to, if I like a company in IT services, or say cybersecurity, I can write down, this is the company I have, and I want a similar size companies, and it'll go and search for it. And
yeah,
does it
I'm not sure about size, but because I mean, it's pulling it's limited to the data it has, and a lot of these private companies aren't that data rich, right? I mean, they're not publicizing a lot of this stuff. So.
Yeah. By the way, my company, I was doing a Google search, SMB Capital Partners, and I saw that in one of the data providers claims that I have done 18 acquisitions by now. So I'm happy. If you can.
Nice. Congratulations.
Thank you. I was very happy looking at it. I thought, okay, that's good.
No cash flow.
Yeah.
Cash flow. I'm searching for it, and that creates a lot of things. But now my next question to you guys is another thing. You were talking about so when you look at a company, any industry. I have two CPAs here and two CFOs and all that who can also speak about it. How do you look at the potential of the company in the initial search? You look at the potential of the company, industry, how big is it, or just look at the cash flow and financials? What do you look for? What attracts you the most?
Depends if I know the industry or not. For me personally, like if I know the industry, I know exactly what I'm looking for. I know the potential. If I don't know the industry, I'm 100% looking at the cash flow to seeing if it even. So I made myself like at the bare minimum information I need, which is just like, hey, let me assume a couple of cash flow years at these stupid, ridiculous interest rates that we have right now. Will it service the debts and will it have enough left over for me? Yes. Okay, now I'm looking.
Yeah. So I want to add one thing more. Industry, market, product market fit, and all that, all these subjective areas also, and or just look at financials and say, this is a cash flowing company, I'll go for it. So Nayab, you're a numbers guy.
I'll look at both. I'll look at both. I mean, basically, I mean, there might be an amazing industry somebody might be in, like, and they might have screwed it up. They might have screwed their business. So, which means just looking at the industry potential or that business potential may not complete the whole picture. So we have to look back and see what they have achieved so far. And secondly, just I mean, to complete the whole answer, if you just look at the historical financials, it may not tell you the potential of the company, because he or she might have done a great job during the last 3 years, but something might have happened which might put this business into a risk. So we have to have a holistic approach looking at the business rather than just a myopic one looking at one element of that.
Okay.
Yeah, I look for cash flow, and then I start looking at the business, and then if I get the SIM, I'll get the SIM if it has decent cash flow, and then just look and see if does it look like the industry has some tailwinds. Is it? I like a little hair on the bone, so if I look at their website and it kind of sucks and they're still making good cash flow, that's the best part. That's a good one. Then my thesis is, wow, if they're making that kind of money, and if they're making good money and they're not really doing a good job with modern sales and marketing techniques, then it shouldn't be a heavy lift, and maybe potentially just, you don't have to increase a lot. You just need to increase it some and get some good growth.
I think what you said about not being managed properly. So I've seen this a lot, right? One of the things, especially on the consulting side, like fractional CFO side, that I do is I like technology. I like streamlining. I hate repetitive tasks. I like to utilize AI to make my life a lot easier. And what I find most difficult in most companies is that culture change. So if you got this long established company that maybe is not being managed properly for its industry, it can do better. But the amount of effort it takes to push for that culture shift is so freaking hard. Like, to me, immediately is a complete turn off for me. Like, if I see that, that's why I look for cash flow first. Like, at least if it's not being managed to its potential and there's cash flow, then you're covered. Like, you can expend that energy. But imagine expending that energy when you're not making money, when you're actually losing money, and you're self-funded, of course, right? So that's why I say, like, when I'm looking at a deal, I'm trying to get to a no as fast as possible. If I get to my no, then I can get to the next deal. If I, was like, well, let me research this, and this is specifically for me because I know a couple of industries that I like, But if it's one that I don't and I don't see the cash flow, I'm not even bothering looking into it, because it's not, again, your time is just so valuable.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. And anybody else, Dad? I hope I'm not.
Similar, yeah, start with the numbers and then it's so easy to get distracted. So I've tried to kind of create like 5 or 6 questions that is like my filter to not waste time. But I'm also trying to think, could I sell this business in 5 years, or will I be kicking myself if I buy this? And then you're kind of stuck. Like, so it's so easy to get sucked into like, oh wow, 1.5 million of cash flow. Like this would be the greatest life ever. And then you're like, dude, could I actually see somebody wanting this, even if I made this into the best version of this business possible? And it's amazing how quickly that shuts down things really fast. Even though I do like to Mark, I think Mark said, like, I like a little hair, like that's where the opportunity is. I feel like you got to find, like, this is part of a huge industry. You could see a private equity company wanting to buy it if you wanted to get out of it. That's my thought process.
I have a very
scalability is another factor.
Mhm.
Sorry, Cindy. Yeah, I was just saying that scalability is another factor, because I mean there might be a standalone business, generating enough cash to sustain the business, but if you can't replicate the same model and scale it, it might be a problem at a later stage getting an exit.
Yeah, and I was thinking about one example, and it may be a very small example for you guys, but just think of smoke shops and auto centers who are dealing with non-EV kind of companies, right? Smoke shops. If you a couple of years back, and a friend of mine owns 5-7 of them, of course, and I think it is producing enough cash flow to him right now. But when I asked him, hey, why don't I go and buy a few, because I see all of these things are on sale now and at a very decent price. And he said, you know what, this is a dying industry. And if you are not able to take out your money fast, in next 4 or 5 years, it is going to be difficult to be able to sell those. So this is one example why I asked this question, whether you look at a cash flow right now. And on the other side, if you look at the cybersecurity, the same cash flow of 100,000, and you go into a cybersecurity firm and there's an attack or something somewhere, then you're in need, and your business grows and you're in a growing industry. So I think what you guys are saying, both things matter, right? So both things matter. I personally, and it's also we have our own tendencies, human tendencies. Like my tendency is, personal tendency is to go towards looking at potential product market fit and all that, because I'm comfortable in more subjective things. And that's why I have Nayab as my partner. And I ask him for his opinion on the financials most of the time. So that's how I look at things. And I think what you guys have said is both things are important. So is it okay if we move on to the last subject, or you want to say something on this question? Okay. I heard John Baker say something great thing about proprietary search, right? His experience in reaching out to physicians and all that, right? What do you think we should do a little more, and apart from increasing the funnel, what extra things we should do to improve our proprietary search?
I mean, I personally think the system side of things, I think working in, at least the way I think about it, is it's these different silos you want to perfect. So, you have your list, the data that goes into a CRM, you want to make sure that data is good and cleaned up. And then it goes into a CRM, and you want to make sure now that your CRM is optimized and it provides the details that you need to have a coherent conversation with a seller or a stakeholder of the seller. And then the next piece is, how are you leveraging technology to sort of scale your proprietary search? So making sure you have email drip campaigns set up that are personable and that don't sound like a robot, which is really important before you do that sort of thing. And then I think you can then pull reports. And then the next piece is okay, how am I measuring the results of this? And you can pull reports from different CRM, from your CRM. And then that way you can have more of a systematic approach, which will increase the funnel and it'll provide you direction on where to go. You know, do I need to get a bigger list of potential leads, or do I need to focus on my communication because I'm not getting through to people? Whatever it is, it'll allow you to really pinpoint that. At least it's been really helpful for me on the healthcare side.
Awesome. Anything else?
I've got a question, and I think it's on the same topic of, getting as many leads as possible, building that funnel. So a lot of times when we are trying to search for potential acquisitions, there's a lot of noise as well. So we spend time, and time is precious, right? That's equivalent to money. And when we are investing time finding the right deal, there is like 70% or 80% there is noise, and there are hardly 10-20% which are basically genuine deals or genuine potential acquisitions. So how do you sift through the two and try to reduce the noise and keep focused on the real deals?
See, like me personally, I haven't started my search, so I can't speak to the search side, but I can speak to at least my experience and getting rid of tire kickers, people who are just wasting your time or looking for a free valuation. I think you'll begin to notice pattern. At least for me, you notice patterns. Humans can be pretty predictable. Just like I assume business owners, there's different personalities, but they can be predictable over time. So you begin to know, which people respond to what, how they interact with you. Are they delaying, getting back to you? Do you have to, pester them to get information? There's little tests you can sort of throw out there to see how they respond. And if they're engaging, it's usually a pretty good sign to keep going. But if you're really needing to pester someone, I would just sort of extend my outreach so it's a longer kind of drip period, or just so they know that I'm around if they do turn around, but I wouldn't waste too much time on them.
Awesome. Any other views on this? I think with the human tendencies, reading through them, through how they are responding, and I'll share my thoughts with you. Even this happens with even brokers, and I have a broker. I'm talking to this guy. There's so much of a difficulty in getting a balance sheet, latest balance sheet from them, and they want, oh, give me an LOI. I understand I should give you an LOI, but I'm interested in the business, but I want to see the balance sheet. I've already signed an NDA. What's stopping you? So I had to send a very nasty, not nasty is sorry for my English as second language, but some kind of an email email yesterday, and that guy had a meeting with me just before this, and I had to explain him. I said, if you don't send me information, my antennas are up. It seems like there's something wrong in there, right? So, and I actually want to see it more before I send an LOI. And and last line I said in my email yesterday was, let's keep the sanctity of the LOIs intact, because otherwise we make this as, and I use the word that please keep the sanctity of the LOIs in this country correct. I don't want to make it like a third world country, where we can just send information to anybody, or a number to anybody, and nobody cares about it. Let's keep this. Like I gave him an example. I said I knew somebody. He would just send a LOI looking at the listing, and then start talking about and negotiating. Sir, I am an old school guy. I don't want to do that, but I want to see. I usually ask for three things: statement of a cash flow, balance sheet, and 3-year financial. But if you give me 3-year financials as well as a balance sheet, that's good enough. So, what I'm coming at to you is that when even brokers, I'm finding it difficult to sometimes get hold of this information. Do you also get that kind of a pushback from brokers? Why do you need it? You just need his thing was, oh, by the way, you are only buying an asset sale, so why do you need a balance sheet? You know what? And I'm saying, sad is
I want to say that that's the sign of a bad broker immediately,
Yeah.
right? Because if A, it's for smaller deals. B, it's a sign of a bad broker who just wants to. It's a used car salesman. It's a good car. Look at it. It works. It runs. You saw it run. But why don't you want to buy it?
Yeah.
So I'm like, oh, I hate those brokers so
Yeah.
much.
So
The ones that are like, can I see a bank statement? Can you prove your balance? Do you have the thing?
Yeah.
Yes,
So
let me
that-
transfer around all my money into one account again, so I can take a screenshot for you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
my answer is always like, I mean, and in the finance field, when somebody is only putting forward P&L, my answer is like, I mean, there is a reason that we call, I mean, there are 3 statements in the set of financial statements, not only one, because it doesn't complete the picture. You are just showing me one side of the face, and what happens on the other side, nobody knows. So you have to complete the picture for me.
Yeah. So I think I'm able to convince him
Yeah.
today after half an hour that this is not. I had to write an ST email to him, and I think it worked. I hope it worked. But it is not the right kind of you find such kind of people also, not and to asking, hey, why do you need it? And I told him, I said, I have dealt with so many brokers. Most of them have given me all these information that I'm asking them. At the most, they will ask me about is, do you have a proof of funds? And I can gladly give those proof of funds for that kind of a deal, because I'm not trying to shoot. I'm not trying to what do you call that? Do a moonshot that I have X in the pocket and I am thinking of buying $100 million company. I'm going as my pocket is. So anyway, that's a learning I wanted to share with all of you. So anything else, and we can close our topic
To
today.
answer Yab's, you're asking, what do you do to get rid of noise? If there's a business I'm only doing brokered, so I'm not doing proprietary. But so if I see a business that's interesting, I'll immediately do a quick call with a broker just to get on the same page of what is a seller looking to get out of the business, right? And then just to get, there's some of them just want way too much money, then you can do it. And then if you have a good model in place that you can quickly put data into and do some, get some debt service coverage ratios and kind of figure out what a deal might look like, and on debt and everything like that, and you can quickly figure out if it even pencils out to start, and then if it doesn't, move on.com.
Okay, I have a question for you guys before we call off our meeting today. What else we should be talking about in these calls? Because I see familiar faces now coming in again. Should we take 1 or 2 topics and go deep into it, or a freewheeling conversation like this, and you guys can also ask a few questions, and then we go on and ask everyone.
If anybody has a deal they're working on that they want to, that they're would like some other additional eyeballs and some additional brain power on, I think that would be helpful. I wouldn't live stream that, but
yeah, no, definitely. I will try it. I will also ask you guys next time. Anything else? Yeah, go ahead.
I think it would be nice to learn a little more about strategies that have worked well for people, whether it's communication,
it's a good idea,
email, or
what works, what hasn't.
Yeah, exactly. What doesn't.
And I think let's keep some of the questions. I'm trying to start making notes on the questions into my on my iPhone. I would request you also to go and do the same. And then if I don't ask, maybe jump in and ask a few questions yourself, and then we can try to share our opinions on that, so that we can have a great conversation. Is it okay? Okay, so thank you very much, and
Cool.
Let's catch up again
Good day.
next.
Right,
And
okay.
I'm trying to. One thing more. I'm trying to do it every week now. since there is I'm joining every Friday, I think at 12, or once it is at 11. Okay. Thank you.
All right.